Okay, please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay. Um, all right. So, good evening, everybody. So once again, my name is Onu Onimawa. I'm the product designer for Octamal. Is an insurtech company, right? Um, so I'll just let my colleague introduce herself, and then we start from there.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Adedamola, and I'm a UX UI designer. And fun fact about me, I love bunnies, but I'm scared of owning one. Then I also love horror movies. So I'll just like quickly like dive into what we have today. So today we'll be taking buttons and input fields. So buttons, just like the name implies, is to like incite users to click on something and to get instant gratification. So please to the next slide. So we have basic principles that are supposed to be followed when you are designing buttons. So buttons should be identifiable. They should look like buttons such that it triggers actions. They should be findable. Buttons should be easy to find among other things. Not like maybe you design a screen, then users are looking for where to click. And they should be clear. Buttons should be clear enough that it states its purpose. Not like, for instance, you want users to register, then you are putting submit. That's not clear enough for the users. So let it state its purpose. Next slide, please. So we have different type of buttons. We have the text buttons, outline buttons, content buttons, and toggle. So for the text buttons, these are like the tertiary buttons. They do not have they are not of high emphasis like that. We have the outline buttons, which can serve as the secondary button. They have medium emphasis. Then we have the content buttons, which is the primary CTA, call to action. These are of high importance on a page. Then we have the toggle. This is used to change status as in on and off. However, this button is not commonly used. Next slide, please. Then we have different states. We have the active states, we have the hover, we have the default as seen on the screen, we have the disabled. This means that the button are non-interactive. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the primary, secondary, and tertiary button. Primary buttons are usually filled and they're of high importance. The secondary button is usually outlined, medium emphasis, and tertiary, which is usually text buttons. Then next slide, please. Okay, for instance, this is, let's say you want to order something, you are really hungry, like on one sunny afternoon like that, you go to a page, you want to order, then you see the price, you see the name of what you want to buy, you see the details, then you start scrolling and scrolling, button is nowhere to be found. I'm sure you'll be pissed. You'll be like, okay, what am I even doing on this page? So that's called abstraction in UI design, UX. That's breaking Hicks law. So we have the second scenario, which is which has the button, which has what you want to buy, the amount. Then we have read more here. This is the tertiary button. This is not exactly what we want to do on this page. We have buy now. This is of high emphasis. This is going to incite users to want to click on them. So we have the add to cart outlined. This is the secondary. So on a page, we are not supposed to have more than one primary CTA on the page because you don't want to confuse your users. And Ixlos states that when there are like when there is many choices for users to pick on a page, they get confused and it takes more time for them to decide. Next slide, please. So to maintain consistency when you're designing, you have to create a style guide. So for this first one, we can see that this is not consistent at all. We have different colors, so many things happening on the page. We have like um the radius is we have corner radius, then this one is just sharp edges. We have different colors, we have green, we have blue, we have gray. This is inconsistent and is not accepted in UX design. So you should do this instead. Maintain the same color, maintain the same shape. Then next slide, please.
Okay, hold on. Coming.
All right.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking on buttons and input field. But before we dive into this, I just want to show you guys something, right? Like my colleague said earlier, I think she has explained everything you have to know regarding buttons and how they look, the type of buttons we have, and when to use them and when not to use them. So I'm going to be talking about the button style mostly because I'm seeing designs where people are like so confused when it comes to using the right button for it, right? So not of recent, I think maybe 2 months back or so, I saw a design. Sorry, can you hear me? Because I have network issue
Yeah,
and I don't want to. Okay, good.
I can hear you.
So like 2 months ago or back, right? I saw someone using a primary button twice on a page, right? But with different color. And for me, I think that was a no-no because I don't understand why you're using. Let me just get this. Um, I don't understand why we have this. I'll just change the let's see. It was cancelled. I saw. I don't remember, but I remember the color that the person used, and it was a lighter shade of blue of the other color. So it was kind of confusing for me because I was like, why do you have two of these? Like, as a user, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to cancel? I proceed? So it was very confusing on that time. Not only mostly for some people and myself. When I have a primary button, right, I can pick the outline button to be the secondary. That if is very important for the design. That if I have to have two buttons on that page, I can do something that not confuse my so by outline button that I'm talking on something like this. Okay. It's different. So if you come to a page, if you're on an app and you're trying to either proceed to the next page or you're trying to cancel, this won't be confusing for you. I don't know if anyone understands that. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can. Someone said you're breaking.
Hello?
Hello? You're breaking. You're
Yes,
breaking.
I said, can you hear me? I'm
Yes, I
breaking.
can.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was asking if anyone have a question concerning this because I wouldn't want to rush, just keep talking and then we don't have questions or everybody is lost at somewhere or the other. So I think someone's hand is up. I don't know. Um, okay, people's hands are up. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing, right, between this is for primary and this is for secondary. This tertiary, which is the text button, like she said earlier, people mostly use it for this type of interface. Like the instead of reading this whole thing before I get to order burger and chips, I can just see the buy now option or the add to cart option. Depends on how hungry I am, because I'm someone that likes food, so I don't think I have time to read everything here. And then I have to be scrolling to find the button to where they'll say I can buy. I mean, for a user, that would be like so annoying for me, and I don't think I'll ever want to come back to your app again. We can use, let's just look for a name. Um, let's say there's a food app, right? And they have a competitor. So instead of me coming back to your page to order burger and chips, I'll check what your competitor is offering, right? To see if they have better feature, if their interface is easy, like better for functionality and all that. I can just check your user and then compare you to, and if they're simple for me, I go with them and leave you. For design, right, we have to be careful on how we place our buttons and how we use them. Yeah, so that's what I have to say concerning this. Dami, do you have something else to say concerning this button? Because I think we were talking about it
Uh,
yesterday and how very important it is.
yeah. I think we should just go to the practical aspects. Then I'll be asking you questions about your
Okay,
height, your color. Yeah.
okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to create a button right now. I'm looking for the word to use. Dami, what word do you think we should use? Should we just use button, proceed, create account or something?
Yeah, let's use create account.
Okay. Um, so to create a button, the first thing we can do is either we hit T on our system. If you notice at the top left panel, we have T already highlighted. So we can just type in our text. Okay. I'm gonna change my font to should I use Poppins, Montserrat? And let's try Montserrat. Everybody loves Montserrat. I think is our go-to font when we are creating or working on any projects. Oh, what do you think, Dami? Should we use something else other than Montserrat?
I don't know. I just like started using Rubik. I think the for yesterday. I think we should use that. That's what we use for our slides already.
Okay, that is Rubik, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I changed the text weight to semi-bold. It's important we do that when creating a button because for me, I think it just pop out the text, right? Like you get to see it very well. And if you use something like light, if you use regular, well, regular can work, but then it's not so obvious. It's just, I don't know, a little bit hidden. But let's see how it goes. We can try all these fonts with and see how they go. So once you have your text like this, you can click on Shift A to add the Octo layout.
Yeah.
And then go to the right panel to add your fill. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is to increase the padding for my button. I'm going to increase it. The horizontal padding, I'm thinking I should do 50. Will 50 be too much?
50.
Let's try
Do
30.
20.
I was thinking 30.
20. Okay. Anyone, just use it.
Let me try 25 and see how it is. Okay. Let's try 30. I don't know. I think I have this focus for creating for mobile app. Um, okay, so it's 30 for the horizontal and vertical. Vertical can be 14 or 15. Then what do you think? 14 or 15?
Mm, let's use 16 because I love like multiples of 4 and 8. So
Are you serious? Is that how you create
yeah.
your button? By using multiples of 4?
Yeah, because
Uh,
I don't like decimals when I'm designing, so I use even numbers. Yeah.
okay. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to add a border radius to this. Actually, this is a button right now. You have a button, but then um for me, I think when not really I think sure. Let me just say the truth. When I'm creating buttons, right, I like adding border radius to it because I feel it gives it this good look than just being a rectangle. Like there's no curve to it. It's just a sharp shape, and I don't really like it like that. So I'm going to add a border radius to it. I'm still going to my right panel. Um, what border radius that mean? Do we
I
say try
use
it?
4. Yeah, you can use 8. I use 4, 8, 16.
Let's see if 4 is pronounced. It's a bit pronounced. Yeah, let's see. Let's try 16. Uh, no.
We could
I
do
think
8.
I'll just stick with the 8. Yeah.
Well, let's check the button
Okay.
height.
Yeah, let's check that. So this is 51.
51. For me, I think it's too like kind of big, cause using the material design guideline. So I just go for mobile for from 44 to 50. So
So that means we have to reduce the vertical padding then. So let's see.
yeah.
So now we have 49.
Okay, that works. That works.
Okay, 49 is good, right? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to change our button color and also the label inside. So I'm thinking we should go for blue. I just need to go
Okay.
to my color.
Okay.
And or do we try a random number, random color? Sorry.
Um, let's do blue. I don't know. Blue is easy for me. Like it's easy on the eyes. I don't start squinting my eyes. Might have to change the font color.
Yeah. I can't design a button like this, please. Don't make me cry. Okay. Um, okay. So this is it. So right now we have our button, right? But
Yeah.
then what happens if you're working on a project that requires so many fonts, sorry, so many button states? What happens if you're creating let's say I think this mostly is effective for websites when you're using when you
Yeah.
have the hover stage, right? You can hover on the
Exactly.
button and see the color changes, but for mobile app you can only use active defaults and then disable sometimes, that's if you want. But I
Yeah.
think for websites you have to use the hover so that
Yeah.
when user come to your page and they hover on the button, they'll be like, oh, this is nice, and then they'll not want to stay and see what other things you got going on there. But I'm going to create these 4 states so that we'll know how to use them. Now creating this component, right? This whole thing is called component, right? Creating it is going to make your work very easy, and it comes in handy when you're designing for any of the platform, either mobile, website, or web app, whatever you're designing for. And it also helps with your consistency, that is use of button, so that you don't
Yeah.
go maybe after creating something like this now, um instead of you to have a different maybe a different button with shape or something, you go create let me just you create something different like this, this is wrong.
That's
You need to
off.
have consistency, like so off. You need to have consistency. So that's where creating a component comes. Like it helps you as a designer. It's very easy for you to use. So I'm just going to do that right now. So I'm going to select my button. So I don't know if you can see where my mouse is hovering. We have create component, and then we have use a max. Dami, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a component. So this is it. This is our component. If you notice on the left panel where we have frame 14, the color changed, and then you can see it's different from these two here, from frame 13 and 12. Like they're so different, very different.
Yeah.
So after creating it, I'm just going to duplicate it, right? And
All
then
right.
I'll duplicate it again.
So why are you doing that?
I'm trying to create those states that I spoke of, right? So one thing I learned before concerning buttons is, for me, it works this way. Like you have your main component at the edge, separate from other buttons that you have duplicated, and this is in case of correction. I think there are other ways to it. I don't know. Dami, what do you think?
Yeah. I don't create a model component for my buttons because I'm going to change the color anyway. I'm going to have default
Yeah.
that is outlined. I'm going to have disabled that
Mm-hmm.
is like gray. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, what's the point? I just go ahead to create my buttons like that. I don't put a model component because the essence of a model component is to change the color at once. Anyway, the only use of the model component in this kind of situation is to adjust the height. But for the colors, you have to adjust them one by one and the whole outline and everything. So I don't create a model component at all.
Okay, but you agree with me that creating a model component is very important, right?
I don't do that, and I don't think I want to agree with you.
So you're going to be adjusting the height one by one?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
let's show them.
Wow,
Let's show them.
that's all right. So back to what I was saying. So you have these two duplicates from frame 14. I think I should name it button because I don't know why I'm calling it frame 14. It's just so weird. Okay. So what you have to do, what next to do is just to have them like this, like group them, not really group sharp, but just highlight all of them, the two of them, and then you go back to the top panel where you have reset or changes. Please don't click that. And then you also have components. So what you have to do right now is create multiple components so that the two of them become components on their own, right? If you notice, my right panel changed. We have combine as variants. So this is where like everything comes together. If I say combine as variants, right? This is what we have right now. So what I'm going to do next is, if you can look at my right panel, we have properties. There's property 1, there's frame 15 and frame 16. And this is 15, this is 16, right? So in order for us to create those states, I can just select the first one. Let's name the property button. Oh, let me just, yeah. Right, let me just create accountings. That's what we started using, so that it won't confuse us. Okay, so in order for me to get to create a name for this particular one in this component, I could just go to frame 15. Remember, this is frame 15, right? I just have to change the name
Yeah.
to, let's go with active state first. Let's go with active. You can write active or write active state, whichever you prefer. Okay, so if you look here, we have our active, and then we have our frame 16. Sorry, that is by my right panel. We have our frame 16. So I can just select the second one, which is 16, and let me call it hover, but I am going to change the color, so let's not panic. So by let's not panic, I mean, Dami, don't panic. So I'm going to go and get a lighter blue. Right. Okay, this is a lighter blue for my hover state. So we just have two buttons here, and what's left is the default button and the hover button. So the way I go about this is I can just go to properties and create component property. Sorry, I'm going way out of line. Okay, so what I can do is just duplicate it.
Exactly.
Just duplicate this. Yeah, I was creating for something else. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So what I'm gonna do is no. I was creating. You know, I had this mind of I was creating, create accounts, sign up, sign in, and all those things. I'm so sorry. I was going out of class instead of so create accounts. Let me change this to default. So I'll come in here, select this button, right? Select this button. So now we are going to add our stroke first. I like adding stroke first because I need a guidance to it. So select my color. Okay. Second thing I'll do is to change the font color to the same thing, blue. And then go back to our fill, and yeah. So I close the fill, I cover the eyes or something. So this is our, yeah, this is our default button, right? The last button we have to create is our disable button. So I'm just gonna duplicate this, change the name to disable. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to change here is just the fill color. I'm not touching the stroke, and I won't be touching the font color as well. I'll just change this to gray. Okay, this is too light. Let's use this. All right. So okay, so now I've created components for our button. The next thing we can do is to go to our left panel where we have layers and assets. You can click on the assets, and then okay, so this is everything for this. We have the button, that's the mother component, and then we have and then we have component 7. So this is actually what I want to use, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I was saying earlier, right? Depending on what platform you're creating for, let's use website because it's safer to use website when you have this 4. Also app shop, but there's no hover state in app. So if I'm to design a page now that I have to put an active button, hold on. Let's just make that control. This is F Pro Max. So okay. Sorry. Okay. So this is an active button, right? It's very active. You can see it. So if I want to change this button to hover, I go back to my right panel where I have component 7. Look at this drop down arrow here, right? If I should click this, I will see hover, I will see default, and I'll see disable. So let's try hover and see how it is. Nice. So if you notice, the color changed from that shade of
Can you
blue
say-
to this one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear
Yes.
you.
Daniel asked what was the state of the first button.
Okay, the first state was active. The
I think
first
you
state
got
is
that.
active. Okay, okay.
So,
So
so
this
you
is
said what
active.
scenario?
Can you check the chat for the
Yeah,
question?
I'm
Yeah.
checking. I'm checking. You said what scenario do
Okay.
we have active buttons?
That's if we are trying to either pay for a product we bought. Sorry, let me use this example again. This is where you have active, right? And you don't only have active, you have default. So if you're trying to pay for this burger and chips, you can just click the buy now button, which is the active one and is for action, like you're buying it now. It's very clear, you can see it. So you can just click buy now and then make your payment, right? So that's where we can use the active button. I don't know if you got that.
Let me check the chat.
Okay. Um, okay, right. So for active, this is active. It's on active now. For hover, I can just switch to hover from here. That's my left panel. I can just click on hover. So we have a different shade of blue right now. So this hover button works for websites actually. It doesn't work for mobile app, because I've not seen a case where you can hover on mobile app. Maybe someone else has saying, but me, I have not. But it can work for websites. So if I'm trying to maybe create an account on my website, on a website I saw, right, I can just click on this and then the color changes from what it was before. That's the action, the active color, to hover. So that's where we can use our hover button. And then if I'm trying to change this to default, I can just go back to the right panel again and then click on default, and then we have our change. Same thing goes for disable. So creating components for your button is really helpful because it helps you save a lot of stress. It helps you save a lot of stress and time. So what you can do again is, let's say, let me see. Okay, let's just say this is a page. Sorry. Okay, let's say this is a page, right? I can duplicate what I want, still have the same button, or duplicate the button and then switch to whatever state I want. So
Okay,
creating
so
this kind
Daniel
of
has a
component
question.
is very serious. All right.
Daniel, you can go ahead.
All right,
Then you
thank
said you
you.
have a question.
Yes.
No,
Um, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the active state button. Um, please, could you go to the screen, um, the mobile app screen, the food
All
app?
right. Okay.
All right, thank you. Um, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but my understanding of buttons is we have, when it comes to hierarchy, we have primary button, secondary button, and tertiary. And then when it comes to
Right.
states, we have default, hover, pressed, and inactive. Now, the buy now, you said that's the active button, and the add to cart, what button is that?
This for
okay,
default. So
wait,
okay,
wait.
go on, Dami.
Okay, go on. Okay, on this
So,
screen now. On this screen now, we have three buttons. We have the primary, we have the secondary, and we have the tertiary. Read
okay,
more is the tertiary. We have buy now, which is the primary. This is what you want. This is the immediate action that you want the users to carry out here. Then we have the add to cart.
all right. So
Okay,
if
go on.
so, do we also call primary buttons active? buttons, because using those terms, right, something is either active or inactive. So are you saying
Right.
that both are active or one is inactive? Because all I've
Okay.
been hearing you say is that the buy now is active and the add to cart is.
The two are actually active. Both buy now, add to cart. In fact, the tertiary button is also active because if they're not active, they're going to be in gray. That means that they're not interactive at all. Do you understand?
Okay. Then what do you mean by default? When you say something is default?
Okay,
A
Sorry,
default
let me
all
button
try.
right.
is not clickable.
Are you guys there?
So I
I think,
created,
yeah, I think Colin wants to take that.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I
So with
I
buttons,
created. Okay, no, go
sorry, no,
on.
yeah. So with buttons, you have um like Daniel said, you have the default state, you have the hover state, you have the pressed state, and then you have disabled. So in this your button state, yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have active state. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
that first one should be your default state. The
Yeah.
second one is your hover state. Now that one in the middle shouldn't be there because that's the second button and it doesn't
Yes.
um,
It's not a state
it
per
doesn't have
se.
notes with the other types of buttons there. The other three are correct, but that one where you have default should be pressed, should be like a pressed state in which the color will now become darker when you press it. So those are the four states you have, just to clarify.
And then active should be default. So you have default,
Yeah.
hover, pressed, and disabled.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So that's why we have spaces like this, so that we can all learn from each other and stuff like that. Yeah. So you guys can carry on.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think basically I'm actually done showing this. We'll just make corrections to this later. Uh, yeah, so Danny, any
Okay.
other question also?
Yeah. Before you did something, you were like, when you clicked on those two buttons, you just like I think what you do was create multiple components. What I just do is create like a component set, so you don't have to like add variants together. Then I also wanted to ask you about your color. How did you come about this over here?
Okay, I actually picked a lighter shade of blue from the color palette, from the color section. Yeah, I just clicked a lighter because I'm seeing okay, well,
So
people
so
choose
you don't
color
use
though. It depends on the brand they're working with.
all right. So I use HSL. So if I want to increase the brightness, because I feel that's safer, because if you go about reducing or increasing opacity, that's going to affect the content that you have on the screen. So if I want to increase the brightness, I use around 94 to 96.
Yeah,
So it
adding to
just
the
depends. Yeah.
opacity of this. Adding to the opacity of this. Okay, so I have a design, not really a design though. It's just I wanted to show the house how all this works. So let me just, I think I'll just change this now. You said this is press, right?
No, press should be
No, no,
darker
no.
shade of the
This is
default.
for a secondary
To be what?
button. Yeah.
This is a
To be what?
secondary button.
This is a secondary
Press,
button state. So this is correct as default. If you are starting as a secondary button, this is correct as default.
Okay.
Do you understand? So you are either starting as whether it is a primary button, or you are starting as it is a secondary button, or you are starting as it is a tertiary button. And each of those types of buttons have states when they are interacted with. So if you are going this way from it starting as a secondary button, this is correct. So that active state that you wrote there should be pressed state. Or yeah. to be
Okay.
pressed
I
state.
mean, let me work on that.
All right.
But everything else is good. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to show you guys how this thing works. So I just refilled my losing hand again. Oh, here we go. What I have is an example of how it works. So for the default button, it changes to hover. Like when you hover on it, it changes to hover, and then when you click on it, it becomes press state, like you said. And then if for any reason you have to proceed to maybe a next page and then you have something to do, you get to have the disable button, right? So I'm saying apps where you have to agree to the option before you can proceed. And I'm seeing somewhere they actually have this disabled button. So I think you have to select I agree to this, and then before it comes to press states, like you said earlier. So basically, let me just see if I can start from beginning for this. Basically, you have default, press state, then disabled. Sorry. Then back to press. Yeah. So I think that's just it for me concerning buttons. Dami, over to you.
Okay. So, does anyone have any other question to ask about buttons before we proceed to include fields? Yes, you can raise your hand or drop it in the comment section. Okay, Daniel.
Okay, sorry guys. I think we'll have like just about 30 more minutes to like wrap everything up. So
All right, no problem. Daniel, please go on.
All right. So just to clarify, I understand everything you've said, but I just want to say something about pressed state. From the demonstration, pressed state, you treated pressed state like an interactive component. What I mean by that is like the checkbox. So the checkbox is like an interactive component. When you click it, then it becomes um, let's say active, right? Without the check. So my understanding of a pressed button is when you have your um, mouse or cursor and you're pressing on the button, right? You haven't clicked it and you're not necessarily hovering on it, right? It's just like pressing on your um, keypad or on your touchpad, right? So you have the default, whether it's primary or secondary, and then when you simply take your cursor over that button, you then have the hover state. Then if you press down as if you want to click, but you don't remove your finger from the button, then that is press state. Now, most times you might not have press states on um, some products, right, or some buttons because it is not, I wouldn't say it's not necessary, but most people skip it because you just go ahead to press the button. It's people who are diligent enough to include all the states that will include pressed. But from your demonstration, after hovering, you clicked or you tapped on the button and then it became pressed. Usually, if you click on the button, it's supposed to take you to the next page or carry out the action that the button is supposed to. That's just my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But I would like to throw back a question to you. So what's your intention when you press a button?
So if you press the button, okay, let's use the terminologies now, right?
Yeah.
You either tap or you click, right? So if you click a button or you tap a button, so tap is for mobile devices, click is for web based devices. So if you tap or you click a button, it carries out the action. So if
Yeah.
let's take the food app for example, if you tap or click on the button, it buys or it adds to cart that meal, right? But
Okay.
pressing is more like an in between, right? Have you ever tried to do something and then in a split second you decide not to take that action again, and immediately your hand touches that button, you leave your hand on the button and slowly take your finger to another part of the screen. Now that action will not be taken, right? But the color of that button might change. I don't know if you've tried that before. So if you're about to delete
Okay.
something and then you say, okay, I don't want to delete it, but you've already touched the button, but you haven't released your finger from either the mouse or the mobile app, and you slide your finger up, it doesn't take that action. So depending on the how diligent the designer was, you might realize that the color of that button changed to a press state, but for some applications it might not. It might still be on hover state, right? So now hover state is only for web. So if you see a color change on the button of a mobile device when you do that, then you can consider that a pressed state.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around what you just mentioned, because that's kind of
Do you
that
have
kind of feels like, because
okay?
I'm actually like trying it now on this Google Meet. Like I'm using my mobile phone, so I'm trying to like play around the raise your hand icon.
Okay, let me tell you what to do,
So it's
right?
all right.
Go to hover over your the microphone icon, right? Now the hover state of that button is you're going to see turn off microphone, right? That
Yeah.
is so. Now I want you to hard press on your left. Maybe you're using a mouse or your trackpad. So click on it, but don't leave it, right? Click on it, but don't leave it, and take your mouse over it. You're going to see what I'm talking about. You see that? So now let me explain. If your mouse is not
Okay.
over it, it's a light gray color, right? Or let's call it gray. If you hover over it, it becomes a little lighter. If you press and you hold, it becomes brighter, but it doesn't turn red because you haven't released. And if you drag your mouse away from it, it goes back to default state. So if you try that, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And if other people are, listening in and you want to experiment, you can also try that to see what I'm trying to explain. Damola, have you seen it?
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I'm doing, because it sort of still feels like over to me.
Okay. Okay. Let me try it one more time. Right.
Okay.
So you're using a desktop, right? A laptop for the meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm
So
okay. Go on.
so I want you to hover over the icon, right?
Okay.
Did you notice any change?
You said, okay, what you're trying to describe now is the pressed state, right?
No, no, let's start with hover, right? Let's start with hover. So I want you to hover over the microphone icon.
Okay. Okay.
Have you done that?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are two ways you can tell that you're hovering over that icon. Can you tell me what those are?
It shows like a brighter gray. Then when you leave, it goes back to the default.
All right. So the first thing you're going to notice is that there's a tip, right? We call that a tip. So that is turn off microphone in bracket Control+D. And you also notice that the cursor changed from an arrow to a pointer. Now, if you had pressed on your left key, you now see another ring of light coming in from the microphone outward. It becomes brighter.
Okay.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Did you
But can
notice
we
it?
like?
I
Okay, can
wish.
we talk about? Go on.
I mean, that is the best option, right? I don't know if other people are trying it and they can testify that they understand what I'm talking about.
If you are trying it, please drop it in the comment section. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have limited time and
Yeah, it's just taking a lot of
yeah,
time.
we still have to run through
Okay,
input
Damola,
fields.
here's what I'm
So
going to do. Okay, sorry.
All right.
No, Pelumi, please continue. I'm sorry.
no, it's fine, it's fine.
All right,
So
Damola,
we
here's
can
what I'm
just,
going to
we'll
do.
just run through this later, just
Yeah,
after.
I'm going to video my screen and send it to the group chat so that you see what I'm talking about.
All right. No problem. That works.
All right. Yeah, please
Yeah.
carry on.
All right. Mommy, please your question. Mommy, I can't hear you if you're saying anything.
Okay, sorry. I said I think Daniel took it off already. Thank you.
All
Can you
right,
hear
all
me?
right, no problem. Yes, I can. So the next now is input field. So for the input field, just like the name indicates, it's supposed to allow you enter your details as a user. So we have the default, we have the active, we have the entered, success, error, and disabled. So the default stage is supposed to have something like a gray. Then when you click on it, you have this. You have like a blue or purple or something, or your color, your brand color. Then when you enter your details, this is what you have. If it's success, you have this. Then if it's error, you have like a red around it. Disabled means it's non-interactive. So basically, to create input field is just to follow the process that we followed here. So these are the guidelines that you should follow when you are designing buttons and input fields. So number one is use correct labels. In a case where you are trying to tell users to log in, you don't tell them, you don't bring a label like sign up. Their label should be simple and short. Let's say add to cart, buy now, something like that. Not like a long statement, maybe buy chicken and cheese. That's too long for a button. Then avoid using generic labels, use action words. So I was having a discussion with my peers today, and we were supposed to work on a project, and okay, they came up with something, and for our button, they said we should use submit, and I was like, no, that's too generic. Okay, what we want users to do on that page is to create something. So I suggest that you use something that is attached to that task. So that okay, create an order, create a flow, something like that. So avoid using contain buttons next to each other. Okay, that's what Jess said earlier. Imagine having um something like this. That's you confusing users. Then you should avoid stacking buttons if there is space to accommodate them. You shouldn't have like let's say something like this. Proceed, something like this. That's too long. Then text should be centralized at all times. Okay, imagine having something like this. Okay, this is org content. Let me see what I can do about that. No. Okay, let me just illustrate that. Let me do another thing here. Oh, okay. I'm just going to use rectangle because auto layouts will just centralize it for me. Okay. Okay, imagine having something like this as a button. I'm sure you'd be like, what kind of person created, what kind of person designed this thing? So that's why it's advisable to use auto layouts. So avoid disabled buttons by all means. You don't want, because you definitely want users to carry out actions on your app, your website. So why are you putting disabled button there? Somebody like me now is going to annoy me because why am I being directed to that page if I'm not going to be able to interact with it? So avoid using interactive, avoid using the same color. Let me just read this. Avoid using the same color for interactive and non-interactive components. So that will be all for tonight. Please, if you have any more questions, let's talk about it. Any question? So if there are no questions, I'll just be dropping the materials in the comment section now. Jess, do you have any contribution?
No, I just posted dropped a link in the chat so that they can watch buttons, creating buttons. So I think that will be very helpful. That's where I watched from. That's where I learned from. So yeah, and the material you dropped too. So that's like very good. I don't have any question.
Okay, so the last link I dropped is for a community member. So he has like text fields already. So you can just duplicate the Figma file. So I guess that will be all for tonight. Pelumi.
All right. So thank you guys for that was really, really insightful. A lot of back and forth, which was very nice because we are learning in our own way from each other. Nobody knows it all and stuff like that. So that's why we're doing stuff like this. So we learn from each other, reinforce what you already know, unlearn and relearn and stuff like that. Yeah. So this is something that we hope to be doing like regularly, hopefully. So anytime we have a space like this, we'd definitely share the posters and stuff, and you guys can join and all. So based on the whole back and forth that we had earlier in the session, so I think I'll just clarify a few things. So about the button states, yeah, we actually have a press state, which is press state is really is like an in-between state between when you hover and when you actually click. So and it's not a lot of companies that actually find big companies like Google and whatsoever. You find people that actually their job is to design buttons, so they would take all those tiny little details into account. Then it's not like it's a big it's a sin to like exclude that particular state from your design. So in some cases, you just have some people having default state, over state, on click, and default. You won't find pressed state, but then some people would include pressed state into it. So that's just the difference. Like Daniel mentioned, if you try and hover on the Google Meet, one of those icons that are not like red. If you click, you see a difference. And if you hover away from it, it will change back to the default state. Then when you now click, the color changes or it takes an action or depending on whatever the button is supposed to do. It might lead you to a link, whatever it's supposed to do, then to do that. So that's that about that button state. Then I also wanted to make a comment on buttons. So with buttons, you'd actually want to use Damola, can you move to your button? The button you created
Okay.
during the presentation. So can you just click on it?
This one.
Yeah, just click on any one of them. So yeah, you
Okay.
have the height of your button as 49, which is not actually best practice. You wouldn't want to use odd numbers generally, like in your designs. You don't want to use odd numbers. You actually want to round them off based on best practice and computing and everything. So you'd want to use even numbers, particularly divisible by 4, like you mentioned earlier. So in most cases, you
Yeah.
find your button as 48, 56, 36. That's for like a very small button. So you'd want to have your button in those cases, and then your padding would reflect on that. So if you're adding padding, you look at the height. So when it reaches 40, then you know that, okay, this is where you're supposed to stop. And then also, some kind of best practice, so to say, there's actually like a formula sort of to for your paddings for your buttons. So your horizontal padding is X, and then your vertical padding is X, and your horizontal padding is 2X on both sides. So let's say um your your vertical padding is 4. You want your horizontal padding to be either 8 or 12. That is 2X or 3X. So that's like best practice and stuff, in terms of like development and stuff. So I feel like you really want to imbibe that kind of practice. So also for your button text, the reason why you want
Okay.
your text to be bold or semi-bold, not bold because bold is semi-bold, because most of the times your buttons have color, and you have to take into account accessibility, people that have visual impairment and stuff. So you want to use another form of identification, and in that case is your font weight. So you want it to be at least semi-bold for fonts that have semi-bold, and for fonts that don't have, you might probably use, maybe they have regular, medium, and bold. You might want to use regular, or you might want to use bold if their bold is not too keen. You get. So that's like why you'd want to use a higher weight for your font for your button. So that's all from me. I don't know if anyone has any question, maybe for Damola or Onye, or generally any question regarding everything that we have learned today. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you guys being here, and we hope to see you on the next one. Yeah, so yeah.
Thank you so much
Bye,
for
guys.
coming, everybody.
Yeah, thank you,
Bye.
everyone.